Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fantasy Huddle. I'm Randy Shaver, along with the one and only Kevin Gorg. Thanks for being here. This show, sponsored by Aquarius Home Services. We appreciate them and the Aquarius Home Services studio. Also, 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. All right, this is our first show. This is our first. Look at Gorg. He's already got like the cheat sheets and the he's
placards
calling,
have to be built, Randy.
Like he's calling play-by-play of the fantasy.
I kind of feel like Brad Childress. I can hold this thing up and we'll have a secret play for you every week.
He's hiding all of his secret notes. All the sleepers are under there. Anyway, this is our first show. We're going to be on every week. You know, we both have played fantasy football for a long time. I'm no Paul Charchian, and I know that
I'm not either.
Yeah. So I mean. He's the godfather of Minnesota fantasy football, and you have to tip your cap, and we both know Paul really well. But we both love to play, and we both have, I think, strong opinions about players and that kind of thing. So why don't you just start? How did you get started playing fantasy football?
1987. So this is year 38 doing this. You know, a labor of love. And, you know, I've always followed NFL football. I was a Bronco fan from the time I was a little kid. But fantasy football, to me, when I started, I was in college over at St. Thomas, and I found a group of people that were like me, just loved NFL football. And so we started putting this together. And, you know, it's before the internet, right? And so we would literally play. We'd write everything down, kind of like this. I haven't changed a lot. And I was telling some of the guys walking in today here at Talk North that our results would come in the mailbox on Tuesday and Wednesday. You literally got the sheet of paper from the commissioner with the results handwritten from the week before. And we would highlight in the paper the morning after the games what your players did. And you'd kind of keep scoring. Then you'd double check, and then you'd call the commissioner if there was an error. And that's how the thing went. And it's crazy how now we just pick up our phone and it's right there on an app.
We just had a draft here at Talk North yesterday. We'll talk about this next week, where we're all sitting in the room, but we're all on our phones drafting. It's not, I mean, we're talking to each other, but you're right. That's where it comes from.
How'd you get started?
I bought the book from, it was Cliff Charpentier and Rob Pythian wrote a book about fantasy football. They were both St. Paul guys. And I know there's some people probably out there that recognize those names, but it was a fantasy football book. It was a book you could buy in the bookstore, really, in like late July and August. Yeah. And of course, by the time we got to the season, all the information was outdated. But what it did was it explained how to play. And so that's how I got started. So a friend of mine, a friend of a friend of a friend invited me to play. And I bought the book because that's where my research had to come from. There were no magazines. There was nothing. We didn't have this.
Which is too bad.
Right, which is too bad. But that's where the research came from. But that's where the love first started. And it's one of those things, and I'm sure you agree with me, Gorg. Why didn't I think of that?
Right.
You know, it's one of those
greatest
things.
Inventions.
Why in the world did I not think of this? Because as a kid growing up in the 70s, 60s and 70s, I would have loved playing this as a kid. And now, there's young kids who get involved in this right away. It's no big deal for them. But for us, this was a big deal. This was like transformational in a lot of different ways. So,
and it's the greatest inventions in our world, whether it's sports or beyond, are the most simple. And you think about fantasy football and how it's constructed and how you build a team and how it mimics what regular general managers are trying to do.
Right.
It's incredible. And it was sitting there right there for us. And even after we got into fantasy football, I'd mentioned almost 4 decades I've been doing this. As recent as 8-10 years ago, I could have come up with daily fantasy, which we're going to talk about week by week on this show. And whoever thought of it, I mean, they're billionaires now because of it. And why didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. And fantasy football has morphed into a more of a game where you can do like a PPR, where now it's half a point for a catch or points for yardage. Those were, we played standard when we first started. It was just touchdowns. It was nothing else but that. So it's evolved into so much more. Defensive players you can draft, kickers, defense, the whole thing. So, we're hooked. I know the people that play are hooked. And we're really excited to do this. In fact, we came up with this. You can find this on the Talk North website. This is our Fantasy Huddle cheat sheet. Now, you see cheat sheets all over the place. I'm not going to say that this is any better than any other one, but there are some interesting differences between what I have here and some of the ones that I see out there. And the differences are kind of a mesh between what you looked at and what I looked at.
Correct.
For example, neither one of us have Patrick Mahomes in the top 10.
Nope.
In fact, he's barely in the top 15. And that's just your feeling about where he's going as a quarterback, where their offense is going. But I mean, there are some differences in our cheat sheet compared to some other ones.
And that's the fun part of doing this is,
right.
You can go to talknorth.com. You can download our cheat sheet. It's all about comparing notes. I used to do a tip sheet out of Canterbury Park. I'm not going to be right every single race. We're not going to be right on every single player, but we're going to have strong opinions. We're not going to back down from them. And then you can compare notes with whoever else you follow with your own notes. Back to Mahomes. Their defense is a top 5 defense in the NFL. They play the game differently now than maybe a Joe Burrow has in Cincinnati. And even though I think Patrick Mahomes is one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the history of the National Football League, that's not what this is talking about.
That's right.
This is what kind of points are going to be available this year. His best weapon through the air, Rashee Rice, is likely going to be suspended for part of the year. Travis Kelce, his favorite and best friend, is seeing his production progressively slow down as Father Time starts to catch up with him. And they're a running football team. They don't go out and beat teams anymore 51-45, which we saw them do a handful of years ago on a nationally televised game. They do it with defense. And so if it's fantasy you're looking at, I think Mahomes is probably a bigger name than he has a better option.
So here's 3 guys that I moved up or down on my list as we put this together. Caleb Williams, I moved him up. Maybe a mistake, but I moved him up into my top 10 as far as quarterbacks go. Josh Jacobs out of Green Bay, I took him out of my top 10 running backs because I felt like Bucky Irvin. I like Kyren Williams more, so I moved him out. And I moved Marvin Harrison out as the receiver out of my top 20, believe it or not, because I just feel like Arizona has a hard time getting him the football. He was having the amount of passes that they try, the targets that he gets, only 71% of the time he's catching those balls. So, and they've got McBride, which I think takes away from him. And I think there's more receivers. The second year for receivers is the big year for receivers to make gains. And so I moved him out of my top 20, right or wrong.
Yeah. And last year I was in on him early, and I, by midseason, could see the red flags everywhere. And I started trying to move him in my leagues. And you and I both play in a bunch of leagues. I'm up to maybe a dozen this year. You have to have strong opinions early on, but you have to not put your pride in front of the fall and say, maybe I was wrong. And last year I was wrong on Marvin Harrison Jr. He's a wonderful talent. But if you look at the way Arizona runs their offense, James Conner, their running back, catches a lot of footballs. You mentioned their tight end. He's 1 or 2 in the league in targets. In terms of tight ends, he's a stud. McBride gets the red zone looks. So you look at the pie and how it's distributed, maybe there's just not enough to go around.
So what about your 3? What were the 3 guys that you moved up or down?
Well, I'm going to start with the guys I'm going to avoid, and I've got some names that are going to probably surprise you. I'll start with Tyreek Hill. I don't like what I'm seeing right now in Miami. And if you're going to play fantasy football at a high level, you have got to stay in tune with what happens day by day. And we have this beautiful thing called Twitter or X where you can literally see videos from practices all over the National Football League. I don't like what I'm hearing from Tyreek Hill about maybe he wants to be there, maybe he doesn't. He's into his 30s now. He's 31 years old. You think of him as a guy that's you hear Tyreek Hill, touchdown machine. He had 6 touchdowns last year. So that production's starting to go the wrong direction, and I don't think the Dolphins are going to be a team that's going to go out there and bury a bunch of teams this year. They used to be a team that I know they put 70 on my beloved Broncos a couple seasons ago. I don't see that happening. The other guy I'm worried about is Chris Olave. I have loved having Chris Olave on my rosters in recent years. He only played 8 games last year. He only scored 1 touchdown. And if you're telling me his quarterback is Spencer Rattler, I'm concerned, Randy. I'm very
Or
concerned.
Tyler Shuck. I mean, it could be Tyler Shuck.
Either way, I'm not excited.
right,
And there's no
right.
Drew Brees coming out that
Right,
locker room door.
right.
So that worries me. And then the last one I'm going to avoid is Joe Mixon. Keep an eye on these injuries. As running backs approach age 30, Mixon is 29 years old.
Well, he's already hurt right now, too.
And he played so much, and he was great last year.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable. If you had Joe Mixon last year, you probably got him in the middle part of your draft.
Right.
He could have been a league-changing pick for you, but the tread is starting to get a little bit worn on that tire. And so at age 29, with a foot injury, which you just referenced, missing time early this season, I'm out on him, and I'm avoiding those three names in my drafts.
So I talked about the three guys that I moved up and down. I'll talk about the three guys that I'm going to kind of avoid. Get away from me picks is kind of what I call them. And, again, I have Drake May up there. And I know there's so much conversation out there right now about how Drake May is going to make a step forward and their offense is going to be different. All those new head coach, all that kind of stuff. I look at his receivers and I go, Stephon Diggs? That's what we're
Game
relying
changer.
on? I mean, come on. I just don't see him surrounded by enough receivers for me to invest in Drake May. So in all of the drafts that I've done so far, all of them, 20-some drafts. I know.
I love it.
I've stayed away. I've stayed away from
And the
it.
reason I said game changer is because for a young quarterback that's trying to figure out how to do it the right way, we know, being here in Minnesota, because we've watched Stephon Diggs, how he deals with quarterbacks, I don't think it's a positive influence. It's a game changer because he got in the head of Josh Allen, a veteran superstar. What's he going to do to this kid?
Right. So Drake May, Travis Kelce, who I agree with. I haven't touched Travis Kelce in any of my drafts. I don't care if he's sitting there or not. I'm not going that direct. I'm not going to get sucked in by that because I think he's at the way tail end of his career. And the last one for me is Kamara for New Orleans. And again, it's kind of the same concept that you just talked about, is that I just don't, the New Orleans offense, their team in general, but that offense, I just don't know what it's going to look like. I think they're going to be behind in so many games, so early in so many games, that Kamara, as far as the rushing goes, probably won't get the same looks as he has in years past. He'll catch the ball. He's very good at that. But there's something about the New Orleans offense right now. I have to wait. I have to see that before I would take him off of that list. I'm just not, again, if he's sitting there and there's other guys there at the running back spot, I'm going to take somebody else with an offense that I believe is better than what New Orleans is putting out there.
And he's, again, one of those big names that if you're in a draft, and we're hoping that as you watch this show week by week, we give you some insight, but that's a name that's going to get drafted probably before it should because people have had success with Alvin Kamara. The New Orleans Saints aren't who you think they are. Like, they are not the same offensive team that's going to go out there and score 30, 35 points a week. That was the team who they were when they had a quarterback like Drew Brees, but right now they're still trying to figure that out. And I think they're going to be in a situation where a lot of weeks they're going to be held to 10 or 12 points a week, and you can't win with guys like Olave or Kamara.
So today is basically our just general overview of what we're looking at. As we get closer to the start of the season, you and I will look at the matchups and the players and break those down. Right now, it's for everybody out there figuring out their draft. I mean, everybody's different, right? I mean, everybody drafts with a different mindset. Some do the zero running back. I'm not, I'm going to take receivers first and a quarterback and a tight. I'll wait for the running backs. People like the balanced approach. I get that too. People will wait on the quarterback. We saw that in our draft yesterday.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
One of them waits till the 10th round to take a quarterback. There are so many different philosophies, and what you have to decide is, what's my philosophy? And maybe if you do a few multiple drafts, you test those. I do that. I'll test a philosophy as I'm drafting. It may not, I feel uncomfortable not taking a good running back when he's sitting there, but I understand this is what I'm trying to figure out is, how does that team look when I'm done? What's your philosophy? Do you have a set philosophy?
I do.
When you draft?
Yeah, I'm an anti-quarterback guy, and I've done that for years.
So even if somebody's sitting there the beginning of the 4th round, and there's a Jalen Hurts, or there's a Jaden Daniels, they're sitting there. You won't take them.
If it's 4th or 5th round, I'll have to pivot and make that adjustment. I think you have to have an open mind. You have to have a game plan going in, Randy. And I'm a zero quarterback guy early, and I wait and wait and wait as long as I can. For me personally, I want to have depth at the wide receiver and running back position.
Sure.
And I want to have, if it's a league where you have a mandatory tight end, then I want to look at a tight end that I can trust. And we're right now currently we're both drafting in a dynasty league with Charge and all those Sharks. I want to have a stud tight end in leagues like that where you have to play him.
You got one.
I got one.
Yeah.
But for me with quarterbacks, if you're going to waste an early pick, you're going to be short stacked somewhere. And that I get it. Like if I look at Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, these are proven commodities who are going to be in the top 3 every single year. But the gap between that guy and the 9 or 10 guy, to me, is less significant if I don't get some of the running backs and receivers I want. And I'll give you an example. One of the 3 I moved up on my draft sheet is Chase Brown. I am all in on the Cincinnati running back this year. They cut Zach Moss, who was kind of the timeshare guy early last year, but Chase took over. He can catch the ball. And guess what? What does Cincinnati do? They're the highest scoring team in the National Football League. They have weapons all over the field. Every team that plays the Bengals knows this. If they're going to have any success, Jamar Chase is the guy they got to shut down. So the backfield kind of gets left alone.
And you got T. Higgins out there,
He's pretty damn good, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've got so many weapons. The thing for me in watching the Bengals is, will they get off to a good start finally?
Did you see what they're doing?
Will they be 0-4 to start the year again?
They can't. And this year, for the first time, their coaching staff has decided they're going to play some of their starters early in the preseason because
I think that's a great idea.
They had sat them the last couple of years.
Yeah,
and to your point,
it didn't work.
It's put them behind the 8 ball. Back-to-back years, they were almost out of playoff contention by the time we got to November. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
It is the dog days of summer, and your AC may be feeling it, and summer isn't over yet. So don't let one last heat wave cause a meltdown in your life. No one needs that. Upgrade your furnace and AC system now with 36 months off, 0% financing based on credit approval with the Aquarius Home Services State Fair Special. And doggone it, spend the rest of your summer cool and worry-free. Schedule your free estimate at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended. 10K Construction is your one stop for all your general contracting needs, whether interior, exterior, residential, commercial, or multifamily properties. They build relationships with their clients, and that's how they've grown their business through referrals. Plus, they are teaming up with LP SmartSide to become Minnesota's premier siding installer. And they're also partnering with IKO Shingles as well. They've got the best of the best to do the job right. 10K Construction covers both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Now, the rumor is they charge a little extra because it's Packer land. I'm not sure about that. But what I am sure about, 10K Construction is the company you want handling all of your general contracting needs. Go to 10kconstruction.com for details.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with 2 great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to LexusofWayzata.com or LexusofMaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
All right, let's do this. There are 3 players that Kevin and I talked about that what should you do with them in your draft? And so we'll show those to you right now. Here are the 3 players. Christian McCaffrey, coming off the injury, San Francisco. Everybody got burned by him last year if you took him number one. Travis Hunter, what do you do with him? Jacksonville, rookie receiver, safety, cornerback, and J.J. McCarthy. I'll let you start. Go with McCaffrey. What are you doing with McCaffrey?
I'm one of the guys that got burned last year. I had a couple shares of CMC. And
me too.
And he looked so good on paper. And two things. Number one is you're going to get value this year because so many people did get burned, and there are so many questions about his injuries. So you're going to get value. I say go for it. I like McCaffrey this year with this stipulation. And I told Mark Rosen this yesterday in front of our group, and I got scolded because Rosie didn't know. But Isaac Guerendo is the name you need to remember if you're going to draft McCaffrey. You have to handcuff him. And I know Guerendo's banged up with a shoulder right now. That doesn't bother me because McCaffrey's going to start the year healthy. But week 4, 5, 6, 7, and beyond, if he gets hurt, Guerendo's the guy you must have because San Francisco, under Shanahan, the one thing you know is when they get in the red zone, it's going to be given to that running back, whoever it is. And Guerendo showed in flashes last year when McCaffrey got hurt that he can do the job.
So if you look at our cheat sheet and other cheat sheets that list the running backs, when you're talking about the value for McCaffrey, well, he's sitting 7 on our list.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get McCaffrey in the end of the second round or third round and he's healthy, that you're right.
It's a home run.
A total steal. I agree with you. I'm a little hesitant about him. I got burned terribly last year, but I've taken a few chances on him this year, not as many as I think some other people will do. Travis Hunter. What do we do with Travis Hunter? I know that in my drafts, I'm seeing him picked in the 8th round, the 9th round, the 10th round. I think that's where he belongs right now until we actually see what Jacksonville is going to do with him, how he's going to be as an offensive player. Are you taking chances on him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's a proven talent. We've seen that from his time in Colorado. I think it's super important to use social media as an advantage when you're playing fantasy. We just saw the update in the last 24 hours from the Jaguars that on the depth chart for a preseason game, he is listed as the starting wide receiver and the backup cornerback. That to me is super important in our game because I don't want to see him out there taking a bunch of reps as a cornerback because they're not going to give him as many routes on the offensive end. And I don't play fantasy football with defensive players. If you do, that's a different conversation. I'm talking if you're looking at just basic fantasy football where it's an offensive weapon, he's not going to be able to run 90% of the routes, Randy, if he's playing defense. So I loved that their first depth chart listed him as a backup on the defensive side.
And, of course, they have Brian Thomas, who's an outstanding receiver. And they've got a new offensive philosophy with a new head coach. And so, I think there's a lot of people that are excited to see what Jacksonville will do offensively. All right, the last guy on our list, J.J. McCarthy. I hear and I see on social media so many differing opinions about whether this is going to be a great fit, if he's going to be a great quarterback. For our purposes, let's just talk about, is he a good fantasy football quarterback? My feeling is yes, because of all the weapons around him, but I know he's starting in the first preseason game. I want to see him play more.
I agree.
Just because I'm kind of holding back. If you're one of those guys, and you are, where you wait to take quarterback in round 10 or 11 or 12, that's probably a pretty good pick to get McCarthy and take a chance on a McCarthy. I saw a lot of people draft him as their backup quarterback to a proven quarterback in their fantasy lineups. What did you do?
See, if I'm going to wait with quarterbacks and we get to the middle of the draft, I want to make sure if I'm taking J.J. McCarthy that I've got a quarterback that I can at least play early in the season.
Count on.
Like a Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, who we just talked about Jacksonville and some of their weapons.
You put Jordan Love in there?
Oh, I think Jordan Love, he fell to the middle of our draft yesterday. I think
you know why he's falling in the middle of the draft? Because he had so many issues with a completion percentage.
He did.
So
he struggled, but he's a guy you can wait on and at least trust as a middle of the road starter, banking on J.J. McCarthy and that ascension. I think it's going to be a struggle early. I do. I think it's a super hard position to jump out there and play at a high level week 1. And knowing the Vikings are going to be in Chicago in that atmosphere to start the season, people might panic. But I think long-term, and we're talking dynasty too. We're talking about maybe banking for the future. I think this kid's going to be unbelievable, but I think it's going to be a situation this year where fantasy-wise, it might take a month until he's really relevant. Yeah, and he does. And again, Addison, one of those great weapons now, will be missing the first 3 games, and their bye week is in week 6. So my advice would be, if you don't get him in your draft, let's say you're a Viking fan and you want to have some draft equity with the purple, you could make a trade somewhere in that first month, knowing the Vikings have that bye in week 6, and he could be a top 5, top 10 guy the second half of the season.
It's a very optimistic view.
I like him.
And the only reason why I'm positive about the situation is the weapons around him.
Think about
Jefferson, Addison, Naylor, Hawkinson, both Jordan Mason and Jones. I mean, and their improved offensive line. There's so many reasons to love what he possibly can do. I think maybe a concern is he going to be a game manager as a quarterback, or is he going to be a star? Those are some things that we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. So if you have one of the top 5 picks in your draft and you're like us and you're going, okay, I've got 4. What do I hope falls to me? I've got 1. What do I do? I hate getting 1 because it just
pressure.
You wait forever for the next pick. But Kevin and I both put together our top 5 picks. If I had the number 1 pick, this is what I would do, and so on. So I'll show you mine. I have Jamar Chase there, but I will say this. This is different than the last couple of years where everybody jumped on the wide receivers and the running backs got pushed back. This year's different, and I see this in drafts because I have Bijan at 2, Gibbs at 3, and I have Barkley at 5. If this would not be the case a couple of years ago, you would have seen all wide receivers because that was the trend, the way fantasy was going. I think it's coming back now the other way because you're seeing these running backs, Gibbs and Robinson for sure, they catch the ball almost as well as they run the ball. And so that in a PPR league, those guys are so valuable. So my top 5 would be Chase, Robinson, Gibbs, Jefferson, and Barkley. How about you?
Yeah, you'll see my list here. We start the same direction. I mean, Jamar Chase to me is money in the bank. He had 127 catches last year, over 1,700 yards, and those 17 TDs. I think you can bank on a guy like Jamar Chase. I'm really high on Gibbs. I've got him number 2. Detroit to me has kind of shown, at least during training camp, that they're not phasing Montgomery out. But this was a guy that put up these numbers last year in a split backfield.
Right.
He had 16 rushing TDs. He had 20 overall TDs, and he shared time with Montgomery. Montgomery's starting to get banged up a little bit, starting to slow down. Gibbs will be the featured back. He'll put up at least those numbers this year. And I'm trusting Jefferson. Like, I'm trusting that this is going to work out. But the Addison injury, the cool thing about JJ is he's proven, Randy, even when he's the featured guy and he doesn't have that Batman and Robin.
Regardless of quarterback, he's proven.
He's almost quarterback proof.
Yeah.
And I think he'll improve on the 10 touchdowns. That number has to go up. And Sam Darnold, especially late in the year, had some struggles in the red zone. You have to hope and bank that McCarthy won't. Bijan's a no-brainer. But Devin Achane in Miami is a guy that I want. I don't want a lot in the Miami team. I don't have a lot of stock in their receivers, but I love this kid because they feature him.
You have him at number 5.
I love him. I want him.
Oh my God.
I want him wherever I can get him. I am all over him.
I want to play against you.
Well, we'll see. Be careful what you wish for because this kid, because of PPR, is like having a player and a half. And I think that's why Lamar Jackson, there are cheat codes in fantasy. Find them. Gibbs and Achane in Miami are 2 guys that give you almost a player and a half. They're going to give you the normal running back rushing numbers and rushing TDs. He's the red zone back in Miami. But what they're going to get you is all those catches and all those receiving touchdowns.
Well, the thing you have to hope for, if this is one of your main guys, is that Tua stays healthy.
Oh, if he doesn't stay healthy, I'm screwed.
I know, then you're screwed.
I am.
Right? Because
you're right.
Achane and Waddle and Hill are all connected to Tua.
And he's one of the reasons I think that Tua will stay healthy. Miami has figured out that he can't be a drop back passer and take those hits. He just can't. And this is the guy they dump the ball to because it used to be Tyreek Hill. This kid's more electric than the cheetah, and they get him the ball. If you watch Miami play, this kid touches the ball more than anybody else on the football field. And a big part of that is because they don't want Tua getting hit.
So on our official cheat sheet that you can find on talknorth.com, We got him at number 4. I mean, we
For
got
the
him
running backs, yeah.
We have him at number 4. So I get that. All right. Let's talk about sleepers, because everybody's trying to find a nugget, right? Everybody's trying to find, is there a guy that I can steal in a round that can make, because as you know, you really win your drafts, maybe even your leagues, in rounds 5 through 12. That's really where you win.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to do well in the first 4 rounds. It's how you do in those 5 through 12 picks that will make a difference. And sometimes you got to take some gambles, take some shots, and not rely on the veterans that have, you have to look through some of the stats and the numbers and take some chances. So here are my 3 favorite sleepers for this year. I love Jamison Williams, the receiver for Detroit. Even though Ben Johnson's gone, they have a little bit different philosophy in some ways throwing the ball. I just think that he's going to emerge along with the rest of that group. They have such a talented group offensively, but I like him a lot. I put JJ in here, call it wishful thinking, but I think that, and I'm not saying draft this guy in your top 7 picks. I'm not saying that. But if you get him at 10, 11, and 12 rounds, that's money in the bank. And last is DeAndre Swift. I think the Bears are going to be much improved, and I have Swift in there. I think Ben Johnson's going to run the ball more. If Rashawn Johnson doesn't steal goal line stuff from Swift, I think that's a guy to keep an eye on. What do you have as your sleepers?
Well, I'm going to start with Cortland Sutton. And again, I don't know how you classify a sleeper, but when you look at a guy that maybe should be drafted earlier than he is, and I'm talking a couple rounds earlier, I'm begging you to go out and get Cortland Sutton. I watch fantasy football as open as I can, but I'm a Bronco guy. Vikings fans that are watching this probably watch the Vikings differently. I'm the same way with my team. I was very dubious on last year with Bo Nix as a rookie quarterback. I was pleasantly surprised to see the poise he showed. And even though I don't like Sean Payton, the guy, you can't argue that the guy's a good coach. I think he's a jackass, but the guy can coach football. Sure. And the way he's developed Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton is without a doubt their favorite target, their number 1 guy, especially in the red zone. Trust me, go out and get Cortland Sutton. I talked about Chase Brown already. He's got no one to share the backfield with on the highest scoring team in football in Cincinnati.
I wouldn't say Chase Brown's a sleeper, though.
Well, he is if you take him in the first round.
Okay.
And I'm jumping up a round or 2 to take him.
All right.
Deep sleeper, though, is Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver in San Francisco. Know a couple things about the 49ers. Deebo Samuel's gone. Ayuk is likely going to miss the season with an injury. And Juwan Jennings is holding out. And there is some real controversy here because the last 2 receivers that got paid in San Francisco, Deebo's gone, and Ayuk is out for the year. They're not going to just pay this guy, even though Jennings is a terrific option. Pearsall is going to be the guy, especially early in fantasy seasons. And last year, when he was given the role of starting wide receiver, the final 2 games of the year, this guy had 14 catches, had over 200 yards, and scored a touchdown in both of those games. He's a first-round draft pick from 2 years ago. They picked him 31st overall out of Texas. And he was the guy involved in that weird mugging situation where he got shot and there was a bullet lodged in his body. So he got a really slow start last year. By the end of the year, this kid was balling. He's going to be a stud, and San Francisco is going to score points. Ricky Pearsall is the guy I'm reaching for.
So you're a believer in Brock Purdy, that this team is going to generate offense because
he's the best game manager I know.
That's what he is.
That's for sure what he is. But what he will do is he will throw the ball to George Kittle. He will throw the ball to a guy like Ricky Pearsall.
So let me just ask you a quick question before we say goodbye here. If McCaffrey's healthy, I think he takes away from Ricky Pearsall. I think he takes away from
and no.
Because Kittle's there too. You didn't even mention Kittle.
Right.
I mean,
I'm banking on them
I trust
scoring.
you, Gorg.
I love that you trust me.
I trust you, but
I'm talking late in the draft. He's a guy, if you look and you can use our draft yesterday, which we'll get into next week, he's a guy that could be undrafted in a lot of these redraft leagues. I'm not talking you're going to reach for this guy early in the draft. I'm saying late in the draft when you're freaking out and you don't know how to fill your roster, and we've all been there, folks. Ricky Pearsall is a guy to take a chance on. I think he's got some real upside.
By the way, the best invention so far for fantasy football is the drafts where you've got 4 hours to make a pick.
Oh, good Lord.
Because the ones that give you a minute and a half,
I get nervous.
Inevitably, I screw the damn thing up every time.
For sure.
Because I panic. And then the
countdown. I get nervous.
I'm lost. So I love the fact that there are drafts out there that say, yeah, it's a slow draft. You got 4 hours. Take your time. Make a pick.
I'm torn because I love instant gratification. I want to know who I'm getting.
We had that yesterday in our draft.
We did.
It was like 90 seconds to make a pick. That's a reasonable amount of time.
It's fair.
But I've been in some where it's a minute and you're like, holy crap.
And I don't even know through your notes and you're scrambling and you know you need something, but
oh my God.
Where can I find it? And the guy you thought was available was picked like a half an hour ago.
Right.
Like, how did I miss that? I understand that stress.
All right. Well, that's our first show. We're going to be back every week. Next week, we'll dive into position by position and kind of give you an overview. Obviously, there are games being played this weekend as the preseason begins. We'll talk about camp notes and things that happen over the weekend, but great first start.
Fun show. Don't forget to download the cheat sheet.
You're as dapper as ever. You're just dapper.
It's a big show. This is step one.
Our cheat sheet's on talknorth.com. This is Fantasy Huddle. Our thanks to Aquarius Home Services, 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. And we will see you back here on Talk North next week.